Caution! The AJ and Quill show contains D&D content and is intended for a D&D audience. And, besides that, they're really weird. Welcome to Total Party Quill, your stop for monster tactics in Dungeons & Dragons 5e. I'm AJ, your Tiefling of Ceremonies. This is Quill the Dragon. Let's get started. You got questions, we got answers. Let's vogue. Say hi, Quill.
Greetings, puny humans.
So how's the family?
Belligerent and numerous.
Question. What has 2 claws, 2 muscular arms, and a desire to cause the ultimate destruction of its enemies?
Your mom?
What? No, not my mom.
Wait, is this about the time I saw you fighting that crab over a taco?
What? No. Answer. The Glabrezu.
Gesundheit.
No, Glabrezu. It's a fiend, a demon in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. It is a challenge rating 9, large fiend that can be found on page 58 of the Monster Manual. They're chaotic evil and cunning, and they're one of the first real boss-type monsters that the player characters will encounter.
Though a Glabrezu can be devastating in combat, they're actually much more likely to try to parlay or make a deal with the players first. They take much more pleasure in tempting mortals to their ultimate destruction, using wealth or power.
Right, and this is similar to what a succubus would do, only a succubus would use, say, carnal temptations as opposed to money and power. So let's dig on in.
A Glabrezu has a natural armor of 17 and a very respectable 157 hit points. They also have the standard demon resistances.
Hold on a sec. Not everybody knows what demon resistances are, so maybe we should cover that first. Get a little meta-adjacent. Yes, the standard demon resistances. Glabrezu, much like most demons, are resistant to fire, cold, and lightning damage, as well as the bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical weapons. Glabrezu also have telepathy and Truesight out to a range of 120 feet. And a Glabrezu has a very high strength and constitution scores, but a much lower dexterity score. Dexterity is actually their lowest stat, although it's still quite a respectable 16. This, coupled with their high mental statistics and their ability to innately cast spells, makes them for a much more robust and interesting combat encounter, even though they present as a melee tank.
Remember, this is even if it makes it to combat. Glabrezus are much more likely to start a conversation first, with 120-foot telepathy and Truesight. A Glabrezu can covertly communicate with its opponents, long before they are even able to see it. But, much like Pandora's Box, or Ursula the Sea Witch, the Glabrezu wishes to offer the mortals a Faustian Deal, both for its own benefit and to the mortals' ultimate destruction. Glabrezu are much more like devils in this regard.
Right, but unlike devils, a Glabrezu is a demon. It's chaotic evil, not lawful evil. It's not morally or alignment bound to actually fulfill any of the promises that it makes. It'll keep its word until it doesn't want to anymore, or until nobody's making it. This makes deals with demons much more dangerous than, say, dealing with a devil.
Their mental statistics show that they are smart villains. Think Grand Admiral Thrawn, and you start to get the idea. They are both intelligent and wise enough to know what will tempt a particular mortal, and they are charismatic enough to make it sound like a good deal.
Physically, a Glabrezu has 4 arms, 2 giant crab-like pincers above, and 2 muscular human arms below.
But like Arnold Schwarzenegger arms,
They are jacked and they have the muscles and the chopper. Wonderful.
thank you.
And you can see it's reflected in their physical statistics. They have a multi-attack where they can either attack 4 times, twice using its pincers, and twice using its fists, or it could attack twice with its pincers, and then cast one of its spells. Now, Glabrezu has 3 spells that it can cast at will. Darkness, Magic and Dispel Magic.
They are also able to cast Confusion, Fly, and Power Word Stun once per day each.
So in combat, a Glabrezu, if it has to fight, will try to start 50 feet away from its opponents. Then it will first use its multi-attack action to cast Darkness on itself. Then, using its 40-foot speed, it will get within 10 feet or melee range. When it gets to melee range, it will attack using its 2 pincer attacks, grappling any opponent that it hits. Keep in mind that with its Truesight ability, it's able to see perfectly fine in the heavily obscured radius of its Darkness spell. But unless the player characters or its opponents have some means of being able to see in magical darkness, they will be considered blind.
When blind, they will suffer from the blinded condition.
Ah, the blinded condition. Yes. A blinded creature automatically fails any ability checks that require sight. And attack rolls against a blinded creature have advantage, and a blinded creature's own attack rolls have disadvantage. Now, in addition to the damage caused by the pincer attacks, anybody it hits is also considered grappled. The escape DC on this grapple from the claws is 15.
Each pincer can grapple one opponent at a time.
Now, grappled is a much more debilitating condition than people give it credit for. Both players and monsters derive a lot of combat effectiveness from being able to move around freely and being able to target whoever they wish. Removing that makes them much less effective in combat. And remember, the Glabrezu does this automatically whenever it hits with its pincer attack. Ah, grappled. A grappled creature's speed becomes 0 and they can no longer benefit from any bonuses to its speed. The condition ends if the grappler itself becomes incapacitated. The condition also ends if anything causes the grappler to be moved out of the reach of the grappled creature. For example, a Thunder Wave spell or the Shove special attack. Remember, you can always release a grapple as a free action at any time.
Now, you can move a grappled creature without a check. When you use your movement, they will simply be dragged along with you, although your speed will be halved.
Right, unless the creature you're grappling is 2 sizes or more smaller than you.
This means that a Glabrezu is free to move the grappled creature anywhere within its 10-foot reach. It can move them into hazards or traps, off a cliff or into a fire. Be creative.
And if you look at page 176 of the Player's Guide and use a little bit of math, you can figure out that a Glabrezu can basically lift 1,200 pounds. Not only does that mean it could pick up the fighter wearing plate mail pretty easily, it could also at the same time pick up his horse.
A grappled creature can end the grapple by using its action to perform a athletics or acrobatics check, contested against the difficulty of the grapple. In this case of a Glabrezu, it's 15. If they succeed, they immediately end the grapple, but they have used their action for that turn. Or, if they fail, they are still grappled, but they have used their action.
Now, with regards to opportunity attacks, if a creature triggers an opportunity attack from a Glabrezu, it uses its pincer attacks. Because if it hits with that opportunity attack, the grapple condition that comes along with that attack automatically ends that creature's movement. It's kind of like when players have the Sentinel feat. It's really effective and it makes the Glabrezu a great tank and very sticky in combat. A Glabrezu will continue using its multi-attack to target the creatures, either making 4 attacks or the 2 pincer attacks with a spell as the spells are needed.
But when will it need those spells?
Great question. So, it will recast Darkness on itself if it ever loses that buff. Say if the players dispelled the darkness or it stopped concentrating on the spell for some reason.
A Glabrezu will cast Dispel Magic if its opponents have some kind of magical buff placed upon themselves.
Right, like Haste or the Bless spell.
A Glabrezu will cast Power Word Stun if it has a single harassing opponent that it has not grappled. Remember, a Glabrezu is smart enough to know which opponents have more than 150 hit points, and who has more than a +1 bonus to its Constitution save.
Wait, but why is that important?
Because this is a once-per-day spell, a limited resource. And at level 9, a Glabrezu wants at least a 2-to-1 chance of success when it casts this spell. Otherwise, it isn't worth it.
And you can trust us on this, we did the math. Now if a Glabrezu sees a bunch of melee opponents all clustered together, it'll cast the Confusion spell. Now remember, this is also a concentration spell, so it competes for the Glabrezu's concentration on Darkness.
Stop that. Because of this, the Glabrezu is much more choosy when it casts Confusion. It prefers targets that have multiple attacks and a low wisdom score.
And if we use the Targets and Area Effect table on page 249 of the Dungeon Master's Guide, we can figure out that there needs to be at least 2 characters in the radius of that Confusion spell for the Glabrezu to bother even casting it.
And a Glabrezu is intelligent enough to deduce which characters are going to be weak against this spell. So, fighters, paladins, and rogues as a rough guide.
Now normally we discuss a monster's morale failure. It's the point where it's suffered so much damage that it's going to run away to preserve its own life. Only demons don't actually suffer a permanent death if you kill them. They're simply banished back to whatever plane they're from, so Glabrezu would be from the Abyss because it's a demon. It makes them much less afraid of actual death inside the mortal realm, so that means a Glabrezu will fight until it's dead. Or you're dead.
Keep in mind that a Glabrezu may have a morale failure. If it is on the mortal realm, and it has something to accomplish, or it's fulfilling some kind of pact deal, then it will care about dying because that becomes a great inconvenience. However, this is much more a story element left up to the Dungeon Master.
And that's it! We hope this is enough to help you get started with using a Glabrezu inside your combat encounters for your players in Dungeons & Dragons 5e. And we would like to offer our sincere apologies to the wonderful and beautiful Miss Felicia Day. I'm so sorry we couldn't get you on the air today, we just ran out of time. And now for Quill's Joke of the Day.
I was walking down the street, and I saw 2 Glabrezus carrying a chest. So I asked them, "Hey, what's in the chest?" And they said,
Oh, like, it's hearts and lungs and some intestines. Basically what's in everybody's chest, really.
Anyway, say goodbye, Quill.
"Goodbye, Quill."
And don't forget to join us next week when our special guest will be the charismatic Miss Satine Phoenix.
I love phoenixes. Tastes like buffalo chicken wings straight off the bone.
No, her name is Phoenix. She's not a real phoenix.
Oh. Well, I won't hold that against her. I'm sure she's delicious too.
Okay, bye everyone.
Bye.